The Forgotten Twin. Every great story has two sides. In the saga of digital assets, one side has dominated headlines, courtroom drama, and investor speculation, XRP. It has been cast as the bank coin, the settlement giant, the bridge asset for trillions in global finance. But while XRP fought its battles in the spotlight, its twin grew quietly in the shadows, overlooked, underestimated, but perhaps just as vital to the future of money. That twin is Stellar Lumens. Born from the same origins as Ripple, Stellar was built with a different mission. Where Ripple chased the banks, Stellar chased the people. Where XRP was about wholesale corridors, XLM was about retail inclusion. It wasn't just about liquidity, it was about access. Jed McCaleb, the architect who helped build Ripple, split off to create Stellar with a bold idea that financial technology shouldn't only serve corporations and institutions, but should empower ordinary people across the globe. This is the story of the Forgotten Twin, the blockchain designed not to rule Wall Street, but to open doors for those who've been locked out of the system. Stellar was never meant to compete with XRP in headlines or market cap. It was meant to complement it, to fill the other half of the equation. One for the banks, one for humanity, and yet the irony is striking. While Ripple and XRP have faced endless scrutiny from regulators, Stellar has quietly secured partnerships with the United Nations, with humanitarian organizations, and with projects that touch the lives of millions in vulnerable communities. Its rails have been tested not in skyscrapers, but in refugee camps. Its technology has been deployed not for speculation, but for survival. If XRP represents the lifeblood of global finance, Stellar represents its conscience. But that doesn't mean XLM is just a charity coin. Its design, fast, cheap, borderless transactions, makes it a natural fit for the next era of money. Already, stablecoins like USDC run natively on the Stellar network. Already, aid programs have used Stellar ES rails to distribute funds securely and instantly to people who need them most. And already, it has proven itself as a system that can scale to billions of microtransactions without breaking under the weight. Stellar is not a footnote in the history of digital finance. It is a parallel chapter, a different vision born from the same genesis. Together, XRP and XLM may form a dual engine. XRP for institutions, Stellar for individuals. One moving trillions across borders in bulk, the other moving billions of small payments that mean everything to the families receiving them. The world is entering an age where tokenization, interoperability, and global payment standards will rewrite finance as we know it. In that world, XRP may handle the wholesale system, but Stellar could become the people's coin, the rails of retail money, the network of inclusion. This is not the story of XRP. This is not the story of banks or regulators. This is the story of Stellar Lumens. The blockchain that was born in the shadows of Ripple grew in silence, and may one day prove to be just as essential in the grand design of the new financial order. Welcome to Stellar Rising, the untold story of XLM. Part 1. The origins of Stellar. To understand Stellar, you have to rewind to the very beginning of Ripple's story. In the early days, long before lawsuits and headlines, Ripple was a bold experiment. A blockchain built not for speculation, but for utility. Its promise was speed, low cost, and a vision of replacing the outdated rails of global payments. But within that vision, a divide emerged. On one side, Ripple's leadership wanted to focus on institutions, the banks, the payment providers, the global giants that move trillions every day. They believed the fastest way to adoption was to integrate with the powerful players who already controlled the system. On the other side was Jed McCaleb, a coder and visionary who had helped found Ripple. Jed believed blockchain shouldn't only serve the powerful. He saw a future where ordinary people, especially those left behind by traditional finance, could be connected to the world economy through technology. The tension between these two visions was inevitable. Ripple would become the company of bankers. Stellar would become the network of people. In 2014, McCaleb broke away from Ripple, taking his idea for a decentralized people-first blockchain with him. He co-founded the Stellar Development Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated not to maximizing shareholder profit, but to building open financial access. Unlike Ripple, which was structured as a company with private investors, Stellar's foundation was designed to keep the network neutral, mission-driven, and community-focused. The philosophy was simple but radical. Finance should be a public good. The Stellar blockchain shared much of the same DNA as XRP, blazing fast transactions, minimal fees, and the ability to bridge currencies. But while Ripple honed its tools for institutional adoption, Stellar shaped its technology for retail. Instead of designing products to convince global banks, Stellar built platforms that anyone could use. From the start, Stellar targeted the underserved. Billions of people worldwide have no access to traditional banking, no ability to store value securely, no affordable way to send money across borders. Stellar was designed to give them an alternative, a way to transfer money instantly with nothing more than a phone and an internet connection. Stellar's launch was modest compared to Ripple's high-powered partnerships. But the mission was clear. Where Ripple aimed for Wall Street, Stellar aimed for Main Street. Early on, Stellar focused on remittances, the money migrant workers send back home to their families. These flows are lifelines in developing nations, but traditional services charge up to 10% in fees, eating into wages that people can't afford to lose. On Stellar, those same transfers could cost a fraction of a cent and arrive in seconds. It was this focus on the human side of finance that defined Stellar's identity. It didn't chase banks with billion-dollar contracts. It went where need was greatest. That's why organizations like the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, the World Food Program, and NGOs around the globe began experimenting with Stellar. They saw it as a tool not just for efficiency, but for justice, a way to deliver aid securely, directly, and instantly to people who needed it most. By the mid-2010s, Ripple and Stellar had fully diverged. Ripple was pursuing regulatory clarity, courting Wall Street, and building corridors for institutional money. Stellar was proving its rails in refugee camps, rural villages, and small-scale pilot programs that no one in traditional finance would ever bother with. The split wasn't just about technology, it was about philosophy. Ripple was built for the system. Stellar was built for the people. And while XRP and XLM share a common ancestor, their destinies diverged from that moment. Ripple would fight public battles with the SEC. Stellar would quietly grow in the shadows, overlooked by traders chasing bigger headlines. Yet in those shadows, it was laying the groundwork for something potentially just as powerful. The origins of Stellar remind us that revolutions aren't only won in boardrooms. Sometimes they're born in the margins, in the belief that technology can give power to those who never had it. Stellar began as the forgotten twin of Ripple, but as the story unfolds, it becomes clear. This twin was never meant to copy its sibling. It was meant to complete it. Part 2. Building bridges for the people. When Stellar launched, it didn't chase headlines or billion-dollar partnerships. Instead, it chased impact. Its mission was clear. Build a bridge between the world of money and the people who need it most. Not the wealthy elite, not the multinational banks, but the families living paycheck to paycheck. The migrant workers sending money home. The communities where access to finance could mean the difference between survival and poverty. From its earliest days, Stellar targeted remittances. Migrant workers around the world send over $600 billion back home each year, often to families in developing nations. But traditional remittance services charge steep fees, sometimes 8 to 10%. For someone wiring $200 to support their family, that's $20 lost before the money even arrives. And worse, transfers can take days, eaten up by intermediaries and banking delays. Stellar's blockchain changed that. With XLM, a $200 transfer could cost less than a penny and settle in seconds. No hidden fees, no waiting in line at a bank. Just instant value moving across borders, directly into the hands of the people who needed it. This wasn't theory. Pilot programs quickly sprang up, using Stellar rails to move money across corridors like the US to Mexico or Europe to Africa. Families that once relied on expensive services like Western Union began to see what blockchain could do for them in real life. The technology wasn't about speculation. It was about putting more food on the table, paying school fees, and covering medical bills. But Stellar didn't stop at remittances. It began to partner with some of the world's largest humanitarian organizations. In refugee camps where displaced people often lack access to banks, aid distribution is complex and vulnerable to corruption. Through Stellar, aid groups could deliver funds directly to recipients' digital wallets, instantly, securely, and with full transparency. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, piloted Stellar rails to distribute cash assistance to Ukrainian refugees. The World Food Program tested similar systems to streamline food aid. These weren't hypothetical use cases. They were real-world lifelines powered by Stellar. What made Stellar unique wasn't just its speed or cost, but its philosophy of access. Anyone with a phone could join the network. In developing nations where banks are scarce, mobile connectivity is often more widespread than financial infrastructure. Stellar leveraged this reality, turning phones into bank accounts, wallets, and gateways to the global economy. Stellar also embraced partnerships with fintechs and startups that shared its mission. Companies built remittance services, microfinance apps, and digital wallets on Stellar's blockchain. These weren't speculative crypto projects designed to get rich quick. They were services solving real problems for real people. Each one expanded Stellar's footprint in places where traditional banks had no presence and no interest. It wasn't glamorous work. There were no splashy headlines of Wall Street giants signing billion-dollar deals. But Stellar was proving something more powerful. That blockchain could be more than a buzzword. It could be a tool for human dignity. As years passed, Stellar became known as the People's Chain. XRP was associated with banks and regulators, Ethereum with DeFi and NFTs, Bitcoin with digital gold. Stellar carved its identity as the chain of humanitarian aid, remittances, and inclusion. For those paying attention, it was a reminder that not all revolutions start with big money. Some start with small transactions that mean everything to the people making them. And yet, even as Stellar served the margins, it was also positioning itself for something bigger. Its network wasn't just about remittances. It was about proving that fast, cheap, borderless value transfer could scale globally. In solving problems for individuals, Stellar was also testing the rails for what could become the foundation of retail money worldwide. Quietly, Stellar was building credibility with governments, NGOs, and enterprises alike. Its track record of delivering aid and powering remittances gave it a legitimacy few other chains could claim. And as the financial world began to wake up to tokenization in ISO 2022, Stellar found itself in position not just as a humanitarian tool, but as a retail complement to XRP's wholesale mission. Stellar had built bridges for the people, but those bridges were about to connect to something larger, a global system of finance rewriting itself for the digital age. Part 3. ISO 2022 and Global Payments. Stellar quietly built its reputation in remittances and humanitarian aid. The world's financial infrastructure was preparing for its own transformation. Banks, payment networks, and clearinghouses were all facing the same problem. The global financial system was running on outdated technology, a patchwork of messaging standards from the 1970s and 80s. Cross-border payments were slow, expensive, and full of friction. The world agreed on a new global standard. ISO 2022. ISO 2022 isn't a cryptocurrency. It is a universal messaging standard, a way for financial institutions to speak the same language across borders. It promises richer data, faster settlement, and greater efficiency. And it's being adopted everywhere, by SWIFT, by central banks, by payment systems from Europe to Asia. By the end of this decade, ISO 2022 will be the backbone of nearly every major payment rail on Earth. So what does that have to do with Stellar? Everything. From the beginning, Stellar's architecture was designed to align with ISO 2022 principles. Its blockchain is capable of carrying not just value, but the structured messaging that banks require to process payments under the new standard. In plain English, Stellar isn't just fast. It speaks the same language the global banking system is migrating to. This puts Stellar in a unique position. While Ripple's XRP ledger is often highlighted as the institutional-grade bridge for wholesale flows, Stellar quietly represents the retail complement. If XRP moves trillions between banks, Stellar is positioned to move billions between individuals, fintech apps, and smaller institutions. Together, they form two sides of the same coin, wholesale and retail, top-down and bottom-up. The Stellar Development Foundation has leaned into this positioning. It has worked with regulators, central banks, and fintech partners to ensure its technology can plug into the ISO 2022 ecosystem. Partnerships with MoneyGram and Circle, the issuer of USDC, have put Stellar at the heart of stablecoin and remittance corridors that can interact seamlessly with traditional financial rails. USDC, one of the most widely used digital dollars, is native to Stellar, giving it a direct bridge to real-world finance. This alignment with global standards makes Stellar more than just a crypto for the people. It makes it a serious contender in the new financial order. As tokenization grows, the need for interoperability between blockchains and banks becomes critical. Stellar provides that link, not by replacing the system but by complementing it. To many investors, Stellar has been overlooked. XRP commands headlines. Bitcoin and Ethereum dominate markets. But beneath the noise, Stellar has been building quietly, ensuring its rails are ISO compliant, its partnerships real, and its use cases grounded in the everyday needs of millions. It may not have the flash of other chains, but it has something more powerful: relevance to the system that's actually being built. As the financial world migrates to ISO 2022, there is a growing realization that both XRP and Stellar will play roles. XRP for institutions, Stellar for individuals. Together they bridge the full spectrum of money, from central banks down to the smallest peer-to-peer payment. Stellar is not competing against XRP. It's complementing it, completing it, forming the other half of the vision that began a decade ago when Jed McCaleb walked away from Ripple. And as ISO 2022 becomes the backbone of global payments, Stellar is positioned not as a side project, but as an essential retail rail in a trillion-dollar ecosystem. Part 4. Tokenization and Stablecoins. As the financial system evolves, one word keeps appearing again and again: tokenization. The idea that real-world assets, currencies, stocks, bonds, real estate, even commodities, can be represented digitally on blockchains. Analysts estimate that by 2030, tens of trillions of dollars in assets will be tokenized. Some project the number as high as 100 trillion. In this new era, Stellar is uniquely positioned. Its blockchain was built not only to move value, but to issue and manage assets directly on-chain. From the beginning, Stellar's protocol included tools for creating stablecoins, tokenized assets, and digital representations of fiat currencies. Unlike other blockchains that bolted on asset issuance later, Stellar made it native. One of the biggest examples is USDC, the second largest stablecoin in the world. While most people associate USDC with Ethereum, it also runs natively on Stellar. This means a US dollar token can move across the Stellar network instantly, with the same speed and cost efficiency as XLM. For remittances, cross-border payments, and digital commerce, this is transformative. Instead of waiting days for a wire or paying steep fees through intermediaries, a USDC transfer on Stellar is near instant and nearly free. But Stellar's ambitions go beyond private stablecoins. Its architecture makes it a candidate for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Several governments and monetary authorities have explored Stellar as a platform for issuing digital versions of national currencies. For developing nations in particular, Stellar offers a ready-made solution: a secure, tested blockchain that can host digital money without the need to reinvent the wheel. This isn't just theory. The Stellar Development Foundation has worked on pilots for CBDCs and local currency tokens, showing how its rails can power national-scale financial inclusion. For smaller economies that lack the resources to build their own infrastructure, Stellar provides a shortcut to the digital future. Beyond currencies, Stellar's tokenization tools can represent any form of value. Community projects have issued tokens backed by commodities, local assets, or even carbon credits. The same rails that power humanitarian aid can also power decentralized finance applications, peer-to-peer markets, and tokenized savings programs. Stellar isn't limited to money. It's a canvas for the tokenization of everything. What makes Stellar different from chains like Ethereum is its focus on efficiency and scale. Ethereum may dominate DeFi and NFTs, but its costs and congestion make it impractical for microtransactions or humanitarian programs. Stellar, with its near-zero fees and instant finality, is better suited for high-volume, low-value transactions, exactly what's needed for remittances, aid, and retail money. Tokenization also gives Stellar an unexpected edge: credibility. When NGOs, fintechs, and even central banks use Stellar to issue assets, they validate the network's utility in the real world. This isn't speculation about what might happen someday. It's adoption happening now, often quietly, in places the mainstream financial press ignores. In many ways, Stellar's role in tokenization mirrors its role in payments: practical, grounded, and people-first. It may never be the chain that headlines billion-dollar DeFi hacks or NFT manias, but it may well be the chain that billions of people rely on every day without even knowing it, powering digital dollars, tokenized aid, and the financial apps of tomorrow. With tokenization and stablecoins, Stellar has built the foundation for its future. But the bigger question remains: what role will it play in the global system once tokenization hits full scale? Will Stellar remain the quiet twin in XRP's shadow, or will it step into the spotlight as the retail engine of the new financial order? The answer lies in the final chapter, a look ahead to the future of Stellar Lumens and the world it may help create. Part 5. The future of XLM. Stellar's past has been shaped by contrast. It began as the twin of Ripple, but instead of chasing banks and institutional corridors, it chose a humbler path, serving people, powering remittances, and partnering with humanitarian organizations. While XRP fought court battles and dominated headlines, Stellar quietly proved itself where it mattered most, in the lives of ordinary people. But what does the future hold for Stellar Lumens? To answer that, we have to step back and look at the system being built. The world is moving toward tokenization, where every form of value, from currencies to commodities, exists digitally. It's a future where assets don't just sit in accounts. They flow instantly, globally, and 24/7 across interoperable networks. In that system, both wholesale and retail rails are needed. XRP provides the wholesale bridge. Stellar is positioned to provide the retail. Imagine a world where sending money across borders is as simple as sending a text message. A mother in the Philippines receives wages from her son in Canada in seconds, with no 10% fee shaved off by middlemen. A refugee in Europe receives emergency cash assistance directly to her phone. Powered by Stellar Rails, a small business in Africa accesses digital credit using tokenized stablecoins running on Stellar. These aren't futuristic fantasies. They are use cases already tested, already proven, and they will only expand as adoption accelerates. The key to Stellar's future is integration. With stablecoins like USDC already native to the network, Stellar is becoming a platform not just for XLM, but for a variety of tokenized assets. As central banks roll out digital currencies, Stellar could host local CBDCs or facilitate cross-border transfers between them. Its efficiency makes it attractive for governments and fintechs that need speed and scale without complexity. But beyond the technical, Stellar's greatest strength may be its mission. While most blockchains market themselves on speed, security, or profitability, Stellar's identity has always been tied to access. Its partnerships with NGOs and humanitarian organizations aren't just side projects. They're a part of its DNA. In a world where billions remain excluded from traditional finance, Stellar's focus on inclusion could make it indispensable. Of course, challenges remain. Stellar lacks the same level of hype and liquidity as giants like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or even XRP. Its price action has often been modest compared to flashier coins. Critics argue that without aggressive marketing or institutional adoption, Stellar risks being overshadowed. But history shows that utility often wins in the long run. The internet wasn't built by the loudest voices. It was built by the protocols that worked, and Stellar works. Looking forward, it's not hard to imagine a dual system. XRP moving institutional money in bulk, Stellar moving retail money at scale. Together they form a complete engine for global finance. One runs on the power of banks, the other on the power of people. Without one, the system is incomplete. With both, it's unstoppable. The story of Stellar Lumens is not about being the loudest or the biggest. It's about being essential. It's about building quietly until the world realizes it was always needed. If XRP is the bridge between financial institutions, Stellar may be the bridge between those institutions and the billions of people they serve. The future of money will not belong to one coin, one chain, or one company. It will belong to an interconnected network of assets and platforms, each serving a role. In that future, Stellar's role is clear: to make sure no one is left behind. And when the dust settles on the financial revolution of the 21st century, history may look back on Stellar not as XRP's forgotten twin, but as its indispensable partner, the blockchain that turned the promise of inclusion into reality. The people's coin Stellar's story is different from most in crypto. It was never about hype, never about speculation, never about grabbing the spotlight. It was about access, about building bridges where none existed, about giving people a way to participate in the global economy, no matter who they are or where they live. From remittances and humanitarian aid to stablecoins and tokenized assets, Stellar has proven that blockchain isn't just a tool for institutions, it is a lifeline for humanity. While XRP may capture the headlines as the settlement giant, Stellar quietly stands as its counterpart, the people's chain, the retail engine, the other half of a system that could redefine money itself. The future of finance will not belong to a single winner. It will belong to an ecosystem. XRP for wholesale flows, Stellar for retail, and a network of blockchains each serving their role. But when history tells this story, Stellar may be remembered not as the forgotten twin, but as the chain that brought billions into the digital economy. The revolution of tokenization is coming. Trillions of dollars will move onto blockchain rails. The institutions will have their settlement layer. But the people? They may find their answer in Stellar. If you believe in the future of finance, if you want to stay ahead of the shift, and if you want stories that go deeper than headlines, this is where you belong. Subscribe to LTL Productions right now. Share this video with someone who still thinks crypto is just speculation. And join us as we follow the rise of Stellar, XRP, and the entire network of assets reshaping money as we know it. This is LTL Productions. Don't just watch the future, be part of it.